Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. I will ride with this group. Seriously, man. Please. And away we go.
Back.
Time for some football takes. It's time for football takes.
Training camp starting.
Oh, it's a glorious time of year.
The cycle of excitement about the start of the National Football League season is predictable, but it happens every year. Training camp starts and you're like, let's go. Training camp starts. Then you get like a week and a half in and you're like, okay, I got to see a game, right?
And then you see one preseason game. You're like, all right, I've seen enough. When's the regular season? It's still like a month away. So,
but every year I get that excitement about, okay, training camp starting.
Yeah, I actually think the Hall of Fame game is in July, right? NFL Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, yes, it definitely is because I saw notes on July 1st. That
July 31st in Canton, Ohio, between the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yep.
So we get a football game this month
on NBC, right?
Usually it is on NBC. Yeah. Chris Collinsworth practicing that slide in. It's preseason for everyone.
Game now though, like he's cut back a little bit.
Oh, so they'll put someone else. He's above the Hall of Fame game.
I mean, that's a rough game, man.
For a broadcaster, yeah, you're going through your chart. I have no idea. There's 180 guys on this chart right now. What's going on? So, NFL takes. It's back for the long haul here every single week. It's a little clearing ground for us on Purple Daily to talk about things that go beyond the Vikings and leak into the NFL at large. So, Jeb, we'll start with you. You deliver the first NFL take.
Okay, my first take is that Kevin O'Connell, Vikings coach, should be getting an envelope filled with cash, just cold hard cash, and the envelope he gets should have a Seattle, Washington address, more specifically that of the Seattle Seahawks, in care of or from Sam Darnold. I want to take you guys through an exercise, okay? If a year ago I had said Sam Darnold is not only going to be good, but he is going to be good enough to do two things. One, earn a 3-year, $100.5 million contract with another team, in this case, the Seahawks. $55 million in guarantees. But hold on a second there, too. Because when the National Football League in their website slowly but surely rolls out the top 100 players for 2025, Sam Darnold is going to be ranked 72nd. Now, this is Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Failed number 3 overall pick by the Jets in 2018. Journeyman, back up in San Francisco. A guy who we all literally thought was one of the biggest quarterback busts of all time. And Kevin O'Connell got him to a place where he not only gets the huge contract, but he is now 72nd on a list that a year ago he probably wasn't 272nd, okay?
Is it possible that he was right around 72nd on the Vikings 90-man offseason roster at one point a year ago?
I mean, this is just another testament, though. This is just another testament to what O'Connell and why he deserves credit for what he has gotten from guys like Kirk and a year, and I know it didn't end well, but a year in which Sam Darnold played an instrumental role in the Vikings winning 14 games, and he is now considered among the top 100 players in the league.
And also, yes, totally agree. I think it's the Sam Darnold story is equal parts credit to Kevin O'Connell being one of the preeminent quarterback whisperers and gurus, and I agree with everything you said. But also, it's a testament to not every quarterback drafted clicks like Jaden Daniels immediately in like their first season or second season when they're 22, 21, 22, 23 years old. So Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold were drafted in the same top 3 of the 2018 class. And Darnold was a disaster early. Baker was up and down, put up some decent numbers early. They made like an early playoff appearance, if I remember right, in Cleveland. But he was pretty immature, and it wound up they didn't want to pay him a contract, so they traded him out of Cleveland, right? But it took Baker, who was 2 years older when he was drafted. He was 23 his first year in the NFL. Darnold was 21. It took Baker until year one in Tampa, 2023, to really break out. Like, to really, okay, he is the leader of a winning football team, completion percentage, career high, touchdown passes, career high, 4,000 yards, right? 28 years old. And Darnold, it took him until he was 27 years old. We just have this is the other half of it. KOC, credit, but the other half of it is sometimes even the best quarterback prospects in the world going against lights out defensive prospects and schemes, confusing schemes, right? Speed of the game, all those things. It might just take you like until you're 27 or 28 years old to be able to handle all those things. And we never stick it out with these quarterbacks.
In Darnold's case, too, I also think it very much has to do with where he was. I mean, the Jets were a dumpster fire. He goes to Carolina. That's better, but not a lot. It took two stops. The Kyle Shanahan stop, and I know he didn't play much, but the Kyle Shanahan stop in San Francisco, I think, was instrumental. And then he got here, and O'Connell's like, okay, here's what you do well. And the other thing that probably helped Sam a little bit was the pressure was off, because it's like everyone expects you to fail. But our expectation, now in Baker's case, I think you're right. I think Baker's biggest problem was his maturity, and that was an issue for sure. But I think in Darnold's case, it literally is like, where do you land? Because if he had landed in the right place, where they might have said, you know what, you shouldn't start this year. Which, by the way, is not like some type of affront. Oh my God, he can't start. Ideally, you can start. But if you can't, it doesn't mean that you're a complete bust. But, we are seeing more and more, if you get put in the wrong place with the wrong team. I mean, Caleb last year with the Bears, his offensive line stunk. And he had a defensive coach. And I'm not saying he's going to be a success for sure, but I think at least now with an offensive-minded guy, he has a better chance. I think circumstance plays a huge role. And in Darnold's case, it took him years to find the right circumstance. And I do think that the year in San Francisco is huge, because you sat and you learned and the pressure was gone and you matured there. But O'Connell, the fact that this guy got you into the top 100 now after you were considered an epic monumental bust is a pretty good story.
Yeah, and you've been a little dismissive. I mean, you have like 3 write that down predictions saying that he's going to get benched and fail and all these things.
Yeah, I think he might fail.
But a lot of the knowledge that you are instilled with carries over. The system doesn't carry over. You don't get Jefferson and Addison to throw to. In fact, in Seattle, it's funny. Darnold gets there and they trade DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Now they still have Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they got some other weapons. But it's not like he starts over from zero. The old Sam Darnold going to Seattle. Baker Mayfield got to stack 5 or 6 years of experiences, and a little learning tree over here with, was it Sean McVay?
Yes.
So just like Darnold got the learning tree experience with Kyle Shanahan, then over to Kevin O'Connell. So I'm a little more bullish. I don't know that he'll be 72nd. I think maybe he settles. I don't think he's going to repeat the numbers that he put up last year. Right. But let me ask you this off of this conversation here. Who right now in the NFL would you put your money on to be the next Sam Darnold? So a guy that maybe he was fairly highly touted as a first-round pick, has not lived up to the billing, and you would say, okay, if I had to bet, and I'll just throw some names out.
Sure.
Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, hell, Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to it yet as a former number 1 overall pick. Who is going to be the next Sam Darnold among the options for this year?
Well, and not that he was on this list, but Will Levis you can take off the list.
Will Levis.
He's going to miss the whole year of shoulder surgery. He's out for the year. I know it's a little bit of a cop-out, but yeah, Trevor Lawrence is the obvious one for me. I haven't really ever been high on him. Yes, he was this can't-miss college quarterback prospect, maybe one of the best we've seen since Peyton or Andrew Luck. And he has mostly been a flop. Now, I'll give him a pass for what happened with Urban Meyer, because that was just disastrous, and maybe that's still lingering from his development. But he hasn't shown it to be he hasn't lived up to that billing of being one of the best quarterback prospects we've ever seen. I know he's the number 1 overall pick, and he just signed an extension with Jacksonville like a year ago, so he's going to be there. for at least the next few years. But I would say him. I would say Trevor Lawrence is probably the easiest pick there.
I think for 2025, Bryce Young. And like, he's still relatively new, but I think he bounces back. He got benched, and guess what? Eureka, it helped him. Because sometimes being benched allows you, like, that's the thing too, is we love to declare busts upon benching. Like, that's it, he's done. It's like, no, he can be fine. I think the wild card for the future, and I don't think it happens with the Colts, I think Richardson's a really interesting case because there are some quarterback people. Now, the accuracy is huge and it might not be fixable, but there's definitely some guys like O'Connell that like the attributes there. And if they like the attributes, they know far more than we do. So I'm like, okay, why? I don't think it's going to happen certainly in 2025, but I think Anthony Richardson for the future and his next stop could be a very interesting case study.
Yeah, and I want that to be true because, like, the peak version of him could be one of the most fun players in the entire league.
Yep.
And we talked a lot about him a couple years ago in the lead up for the Vikings draft. Like, man, could this dude come in? The problem is he's been so inaccurate everywhere he's played in college and the NFL. Just like, he can, cool dude, you can throw about 72 yards off your back foot and hit a home run, 7-0 Colts.
Sure.
But and that's great. Like, you might do that once every other week, and that's a fun play. But the heartbeat of the offense, on schedule, even if you're out of the pocket running around off schedule, can you throw a pass that doesn't sail 5 yards over a guy's head, and wind up being an interception? I just don't know that he'd have to be so much more accurate. Mm-hmm. I think there's some people that think Daniel Jones could be the next Sam Darnold if you just get him out of this, get him out of that. But in college, he wasn't that accurate. He's always been like this sort of game manager, low ceiling quarterback, which is exactly what he's been in the NFL too. So I think the Colts might just be looking for a totally new room after 2025.
Which is why Jones should have stayed put when he had the opportunity. He would have been the perfect backup here. He could have continued to learn.
Yeah.
Because he got a taste of it, but he came, I believe it was almost December 1. So it's not like, so yeah, I honestly think his decision, and we know for a fact that the Vikings wanted to bring him back and were willing to pay him to be a backup. I think that was one of the more short-sighted decisions from a guy who could have thrived just in the background here, possibly played if McCarthy got hurt, but then more importantly, had that experience to take into the world for 2026.
Yeah. Yeah, he only went to a few classes. He enrolled in quarterback rehab school.
He had the right idea, but I think he pulled the plug too early.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. Before we get to another NFL take here, here's a take. Grandpa's Barbecue can help you enjoy the rest of summer, Dex. Let's tell the audience.
It's grilling season, so whether you need the dry rubs or the sauces, Grandpa's Barbecue Shop has you covered. Plus, they're in all 20 Fratelloni locations, too, here in the Twin Cities. So you can also find them locally. You can go to grandpasbarbecueshop.com on their website. Free orders on orders $50 or more. Plus, you help a great cause in xeroderma pigmentosum. So you're helping and benefit a great cause. You're getting some great dry rubs and sauces for that barbecue season. Go check out grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit on, was it Purple Daily, or did we talk about this on the Twin Show? Could have been either, but... So I guess my take here is, never has the NFL's mastery of branding, business, and marketing, just the machine that is the NFL, been more on display than after you read or hear Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner's comments from over All-Star Week. And I'll just summarize it by saying, baseball has a labor wreckage on the horizon here. Oh, yeah. Like, there's going to be, baseball's economic system is a disaster. Team valuations are a disaster. The Tampa Bay Lightning of the NHL sold for more than the Tampa Bay Rays are about to sell in the fall. You got teams in the NFL that are worth 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much as some baseball teams, right? But the comments that Rob Manfred made over the week were about, he's trying to talk with the MLB Players Association about, listen, man, like, competitive balance is out of whack. The Pirates are spending $5 on their roster while the Dodgers are spending ridiculous amounts in luxury tax. We got to tighten that up. make it more competitive, bring more fan bases in. And from a marketing standpoint, we made a mistake for many years. We tried to get podcasters and YouTubers and social media accounts basically punished for putting our content out there or for borrowing our IP, while the NFL said, hey, anyone that wants to do a podcast or put clips of film out there, fire away, right? So baseball's trying to, they're like 10 years behind some of these structural things. A salary cap for competitive balance, TV deals that make sense and bring in a lot of money, just evening the competitive playing field. And then from a marketing standpoint, the NFL, now with the release of these off-season like Netflix series, quarterback, receiver, they're plopping those series down at the beginning of July because that's the only piece of real estate, like late June, early July, that the NFL doesn't own over a 12-month calendar. So you play actual games from September until the early part of February. Then in February, it's the lead up to NFL Combine season, NFL Draft. Free agency starts the second week in March. That's 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, then it's draft month of April. Awesome. Oh, that's over. What do we do in May? Let's do a primetime schedule release the second week of May. And then into off-season minicamp, OTAs. That gets us to late June. Boom, drop a big Netflix series about some of the most popular players in the game early month of July. And before you know it, here you are. Training camp has arrived, and they've covered every inch and corner of the calendar brilliantly. Well, baseball tries to figure out if they should allow you to talk about their sport on a podcast without like an IP strike. So my general take here to sum it up is the NFL continues to be a brilliant machine financially, marketing, everything. There's a lot of dark corners in the NFL, but they are very firmly entrenched as the new America's pastime.
Oh, absolutely. So if you had to rank the 4 major men's sports to your standard of how they do things, football obviously won. Mm-hmm. NBA does a very nice job.
There's some things there though too that they
summer league, but I think there too, I actually think because of the salary cap, the advantage that basketball and hockey have is they can have a set free agency frenzy period, which is great, right? So the sad thing is the National Hockey League is number 3 and baseball is a distant 4. Mm-hmm. Like there's no rhyme or reason to when guys sign. We can see guys signing in spring training. We can see guys signing in November. There's these dead periods. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to learn here. And as far as how you do things, I mean, not that the baseball schedule release is a big deal, but look at that. I think that's going to come out pretty soon here. Like they're just going to issue their 2026 schedule on some arbitrary day, and everyone's going to like joke about, trying to make predictions, and that's that. Why not release that schedule when the season is done to the public? Why not slow cook it with, instead of here's 162 games, here are your key dates. The Twins got the Cubs coming in, or the Brewers series, which people plan around. They do nothing like that right, and that's the incredible thing.
The other thing, too, is, like, if you look at baseball's struggling franchises and cities, like the bottom 10 in revenue and team valuation, now some of them find a way to still turn a profit by just stripping down expenses and not paying players as much as the top markets. But for every one of these struggling markets, you can point to an NFL franchise in the same market that's thriving in some way, right? Like, the Oakland Athletics, who are now in Sacramento. Well, you've got that's the Bay Area. I know that the Oakland, the Raiders left for Vegas, so are the A's. But that's a Bay Area team that's been last in like revenue, last in team valuation. Well, the San Francisco 49ers haven't had a problem. Well, they moved their stadium to Santa Clara. They're competing for Super Bowls. The Miami Marlins, well, you got the Miami Dolphins, who like you'd like them to win some more games and be better in cold weather, but like the Miami Dolphins are a very competitive 9-win-ish football team. The Tampa Bay Rays, well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a perennial playoff team that lured Tom Brady from New England 5 years ago to win a Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
The Cincinnati Reds are 4th from the bottom in Major League Baseball revenue. Well, you got one of the most exciting generational quarterbacks in Joe Burrow, and that franchise is screwed up, but they compete for playoffs and Super Bowls over the last 5 or 6 years. Guess who's next? The Kansas City Royals, a struggling Major League Baseball franchise. In the middle of a dynasty right now in the NFL and one of the most highest grossing banking NFL franchises in the entire league.
But the best point here, I think, is this: how do you do your calendar? Like that's the thing that football, and you went through the whole thing, Phil. The NFL has found a way to basically capitalize on every dead time that they want. It can be the combine, it can be, and I understand that baseball probably doesn't have the amount of events like they have a combine, but I don't think fans are going to care about it. But that being said, and this is why, again, some type of salary cap structure is necessary. Baseball free agency has to be a thing. Well, it has to become a thing.
That's the first thing. Like the NFL has identified the non-game assets that are potentially interesting to fans. And maybe before these things became interesting to fans didn't even know that they would be interesting. Like our free agency for decades, or for like the first 2 decades, I guess, in the NFL, from like the early 90s through like the first decade of the 2000s. It started at midnight on a random Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever in the middle of March. And, you woke up in the morning and some players had changed teams. And the NFL looked and said, you know what? Enough people are passionate about where these players might sign that we should like lead the horse to water here a little bit. Instead of doing it at midnight, because that's the day that the league year starts, let's start the league year at noon or 3 p.m. or whatever time in the middle of the day or into prime time, so that even if you don't know who that left guard free agent is, you love that team that needs a left guard, and you'll find out who that is. And so it all happens in a 2-week stretch. Really, a lot of it happens in like a 3-day stretch, and people are just glued to the slot cornerback to fix your defense's need. Baseball has nothing like that.
It's programming too, right? Like you own now a network. Okay, what do we program? If we start free agency at midnight Eastern on a Tuesday, that's a bad time to program stuff. But if we started at 4:00 on a Tuesday, now everybody's tuned in. And in fact, we basically have 2 days of pregame shows for that. Like, that's the thing. But baseball, and it's just so frustrating because I feel like Manfred's now saying the right things, which he has not said for a long time. But the players are going to balk at this. Well, we can't do that. Well, we can't. This is literally how you get people invested in your sport. There used to be a time in all sports where it was just the games. All anyone cared about was the games. Those days are gone. Like now it's like, I mean, the NBA has a case where I think July 1st a lot of times is more fun than the entire month of November.
It is. It can be. Yeah. Well, put some respect on the NBA Cup, the in-season tournament that captivates the nation.
Colored courts they put out there.
So, bravo to the NFL. Yes. Dex.
All right. I just find this hilarious. God, I was looking at all like the NFL preview stuff, and man, I know J.J. McCarthy hasn't played a regular season game yet, so that things could go disastrously if he obviously doesn't perform. However, I could not be less excited if I was a Cleveland Browns fan right now. Your quarterback battles that are happening. Like Joe Flacco is probably going to be your week 1 starter. Probably? I don't know. Because he's competing with Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, and don't forget about rookie Dylan Gabriel, too, who is also in that room because Deshaun Watson's injured, and they didn't draft one, or they took Shedeur obviously late in day 3 of the draft. That's a quarterback. That is an actual NFL franchise that is saying we are putting the most important position in the hands of one guy who was decent for us a couple years ago that came off the street and he performed well. And then last year, he might be a little too old. And now your other options are former first-round pick Kenny Pickett, who, I mean, we did just ask who has the most chance to bounce back as a former top quarterback prospect. I wouldn't put Kenny Pickett very high on that list. Shedeur Sanders is in there. I would be so just not interested at all if I was a Cleveland Browns fan, because that is a brutal place to be. Those are your quarterbacks you get to root for, or get to put your arm behind and say, "Oh, I can't wait till I see Joe Flacco light it up in week 1."
You just gave me an idea for a Purple Daily snake draft of the week here.
Oh God!
And it's a little subjective because we have to kind of define, but it's starting the most boring or uninspiring borderline starting quarterbacks or starting quarterbacks in the NFL. To your point about being a Browns fan, you wake up, and it's training camp. Here we go. It's another year. Taking our lumps for 3 decades as a fan base. But let's get excited for Browns football. Okay, who are the 2 most likely quarterbacks to start for my team? Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett.
Here's my guess. So I think the rumblings out of Cleveland when Shedeur Sanders was eventually taken in the 5th round was that Jimmy Haslam, who owns the team, says, take him. And they're like, okay. And they took him. I bet he starts at some point very soon.
Yeah. I mean,
because he's Shedeur Sanders, he'll get interest. But I mean, that team is so dysfunctional. It's why I am rooting for Stefanski to either step down or get fired, because I think he's a good coach. But like that whole thing, when you look at just the quarterback room there, proves how many different philosophies, right? You don't have a quarterback room like that unless the coach has his QB, the GM has his, the owner has his. Like literally, that's how it looks. The scouting guy has his. Like, I guarantee you, there was no. If you got 4 guys who can all be a threat to start, then you have 0 consensus in your building.
And ironically, to bridge a conversation from earlier in the show together, if you said, okay, Browns, you could scrap everyone in that current quarterback room and start with Baker Mayfield and fill out the rest of it again, would you do it? And they would say 100 times out of 100, we'll take Baker Mayfield back. Yes. But they were also in a position where I don't fault them necessarily. I don't know that they made the right decision. I don't know if their thinking process was aligned with the best front offices when they said goodbye to Baker, but they had to make a decision. Do we pay Baker near the top of the market like 4 years ago, $50 million, whatever it would have been, $45 million a year, or do we just move on from him and try again? So I don't fully fault them for, at the time, not wanting to pay a clearly not top 10 quarterback big money. But it's funny how he goes away from that organization, gets a couple more years more mature, and now he's like leading the league in touchdown passes. Yeah.
There's just no plan there. Zero plan whatsoever.
Browns football. And Joe Flacco, by the way, is 40 years old now. So he turned 40 on January 16th. So this will be his age 40 season. He has not been a regular starter since his age 32 season in 2017. He's made no more than 9 starts in any year each of the last 8 years.
He came off the couch a couple of years ago in Cleveland, right? And played well. He got comeback player.
Yeah.
But he also started for the Colts here last year. And as I recall, it was ugly.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that this is going to be some type of magical Joe Flacco run. I think this is going to be a complete disaster. And the problem is, at some point, Haslam's going to come downstairs and say, play Shedeur. And they're going to be like, okay, we'll do whatever you want.
One of the great sports debates of the modern ESPN era was after Joe Flacco led the Ravens to that Super Bowl title, 2012, and he just absolutely went bonkers, 300-yard games, 11 touchdowns, no picks in 4 playoff games.
Yep.
And then he was up for a contract. And that's like, it was like the early days when the masses cared about quarterback contracts and stuff, right? Is Joe Flacco elite?
Yes.
Does this solidify him as being an elite starting quarterback? Well, in 13 years since then, Joe Flacco has made a lot of money playing football. 1 playoff victory. 1 playoff victory. So I think,
he wasn't elite.
Is he elite question?
So he wasn't elite.
Yeah. But he is going to be starting for the Cleveland Browns probably.
At least as an old man, he wasn't elite.
Yeah. So, all right, those are your NFL takes here on Purple Daily. And if you have ideas for things you'd like to hear us talk about league-wide in this little play space, let us know. Hit us up in the YouTube comments or send us a message with the feedback tab in the Score North app. Click that like button and the subscribe button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. If you could, you can help us keep growing this community and the show. And we'll see you guys next week for some more NFL takes.